internally. So if you could keep your mics and cameras off for the duration of the presentation, we would really appreciate it. And later on, there will be a dedicated time for Q&A. So you're welcome to use your mics and cameras then if you'd prefer that. But for now, please do keep them off. My name is Magdalena. I'm the Senior Project Officer for King's Edge, and I will deliver today's session. I'm also joined by my colleague Jay, who will have a look at the chat if you have any questions in the meantime. However, if you don't receive an answer straight away, please do bear with us because these questions actually might be covered later during the session. And like I said, there will be a time for a Q&A later, so we'll have a look at the chat then. I'm also joined today by brilliant guests, our KURF supervisors and fellows who will be sharing their knowledge and expertise with you. And this is the main element of today's session. However, before I introduce them to you and once again, thanks so much to them for joining us today. I would like to give you a quick insight into what will be covered today during today's event. So first, I will give you a very brief presentation to KURF. I will tell you what KURF is and how it works from a more practical point of view, and then we'll move on with a panel discussion with our supervisors and previously successful fellows from King's Business School. As promised, we will finish the session with a Q&A. So let's start with general information what KURF is. As you may probably know, KURF stands for King's Undergraduate Research Fellowships, and this program really reflects the vision of King's as a research-led university. We really want all of our students to be involved in the practical side of academia as well. Moreover, KURF is also a career opportunity because it allows you to develop a series of transferable skills such as teamwork, collaboration, organization, and many, many more. So even if you are not interested or maybe unsure of research as a career option and pursuing a master's or a PhD, you still should consider applying for KURF because it is a great career opportunity that you can showcase not only in your academic applications, but also in your job applications or job interviews, which is in fact what a lot of our KURF fellows in the past have done. KURF also comes with numerous benefits. One of them is the bursary payment that you receive right at the start of the fellowships, and it's the payment of £1,500 for 150 hours of work. This is a bursary, it's not a salary, so this payment is not taxed and you received it in one go at the very start of your fellowship. Towards the end of your fellowships, on the other hand, you receive the research award that's featured on your HERE record, your higher education achievement record, and you can again showcase it to your employers and also in your academic applications. That really demonstrates your involvement in an extracurricular activity and interest in research. Some of our previously successful fellows have really amazing achievements in their portfolio that are quite rare for undergraduate students. They have been, for example, named as co-authors of academic publications or papers. They have participated in international conferences. They took part in groundbreaking lab work, and they also curated exhibitions, to name but a few. So how does KURF work from a more practical point of view? Student applications will open in March time and they will be open until April. Exact dates are yet to be confirmed, but comms will be sent to all undergraduate students, so it will be impossible to miss it. We are being asked a lot of those type of questions at the moment, but please don't worry, you will receive official information once students applications open. And at that moment also a catalog of all research projects, including projects from King's Business School, will be published as well. Applications are not assessed on a rolling basis, so you will have time to have a look at the catalog, have a look at projects from King's Business School or beyond, and really make your decision. And applications are open for a long enough period for you to make a good selection and prepare a good applications. You apply via an online anonymous application form that also will be shared at the moment of the start of the application, and the link to this application form will be available on the KURF website, and this is the only way for you to apply. Project supervisors assess these applications, and the identity of applicants is revealed later on. So they can access your information, but it is accessed anonymously. In certain cases, optional interviews may be arranged. That really depends on the project supervisor. Some project supervisors decide to pursue this option, some don't. In that case, of course, at certain stage, anonymity is disrupted, but still, it is our team, the KURF team, who arranges those interviews and helps to organize them in order to maintain the transparency and fairness of the process. All of our applicants receive the outcome of their application, including both successful and unsuccessful students. So no students are left unnotified, and you should receive the outcome of your application towards the end of May. Then there is one more session that you need to participate in before you start your journey as a KURF fellow, and this is the student induction session at the start of June. It is an online session. We organize usually more than one. And it basically gives you some practical information about KURF, a similar session to this one, but it covers what happens after you are actually accepted. So some things that may not be necessarily relevant now, but are relevant once you become a fellow, and you might have some sort of practical questions about how it works once you become the fellow. And then your KURF journey starts. Again, the exact dates will be announced as soon as student applications open. They take place between mid-June and end of September, usually. The exact arrangement of those dates can be discussed flexibly between yourself and your project supervisor. As long as you don't start your work earlier than the general start date and you don't finish later than the general end date, that is absolutely fine. You just need to make sure that you don't work more than 150 allocated hours that you receive the reimbursement form for, and you also maintain a clear communication with your project supervisor in case of some needs to change certain days. As long as you are being communicative and responsive, that's absolutely fine. Like I said before, you receive the bursary payment at the start of the fellowships. So that would be in mid-June. The payment is processed for you via student grants. And then once your KURF journey ends, you have time until mid-October to submit the final assignment that will qualify you for the reception of the research award. The final assignment consists of a reflective essay in which you reflect upon your KURF journey and transferable skills that you gained, and a research poster that presents your research project in a visually compelling way. The best posters actually are selected to be presented at different exhibitions internally at King's, but also external conferences, events, for example, posters in Parliament. And towards the end of the year, you should receive the research award that will be featured on your HERE record, as well as a credible digital certificate and a LinkedIn badge that you can share later on your LinkedIn. Students who are final year students, final year undergraduate students, are welcome and eligible to apply. If you graduate in summer, you won't have research award featured on your HERE then, but it will be updated later, and you will be able to access the updated version as soon as the HERE team receives the information about your research award. There are different duration options how you can participate in KURF. So there is a full-time option, and that consists of 150 hours. You receive a bursary payment of £1,500, and you work for 4 weeks. Part-time option is similar. It's also 150 hours and the same bursary payment, but it's spread across a longer period of time, 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, even 8 to 10, as long as you basically maintain this communication with the supervisor and you both agree to a certain time arrangement. That's absolutely fine by us. We have also introduced a job share option, particularly for those students who have other commitments in summer, such as part-time jobs or caring responsibilities or other commitments, but still would like to participate in KURF. And this option is 50% less of time. It's 75 hours, and for that you receive £750 instead of 1,500. All options are equal, and students who select full-time option, for example, are not prioritized over a job share students. But you need to make sure that this duration option is being offered by your project supervisors. And again, that varies. It really depends on the project supervisor. Some project supervisors decide to offer all of them, some offer just one. So you need to make sure that this is being offered by your project supervisor, and as long as it meets this criteria, that is absolutely fine. And this information will be indicated in the catalog of research projects that will be published once student applications open. Here we have a testimony from one of our fellows from 3 years ago who really appreciated the part-time and job duration option. It really helped him to consider KURF in the first place. This student is a working class student with no parental funding source. So without this, they would not have been able to participate. So we are very, very happy to see those kind of testimonies. And we hope this is encouraging for students who are unsure whether they would be able to participate in KURF. And we are trying to make KURF as inclusive and as welcoming to all students as possible. Now, some information about what you can and cannot do as a KURF applicant. So you can apply for a project that is not specific to your degree or to your faculty. So if you are a King's Business School student, most of students today probably are, but you would like to apply beyond King's Business School, you are welcome to do that. And we do encourage those interdisciplinary collaborations as well. On the other hand, if you are here and you are not a King's Business School student, but you are interested in King's Business School project, this is possible as well. One thing that you should remember about and that you should make sure of is that certain projects decide to list desirable criteria. Not all of them, but some of them. So in that case, please do have a look at those desirable criteria and make sure that you meet them before you apply, because some projects are more open, some projects are more specific. That really depends on the research project. So before you apply, please make sure to have a look. And this again will be indicated in the catalog of research projects. So make sure to have a look before that. Like I said, KURF is open to final year students and it's open to first year students as well. As long as you are currently registered as a King's undergraduate student, you are welcome and eligible to apply. International students can apply as well, and they can also receive the payment. Since this is a bursary payment, not a salary payment, all students are definitely eligible to receive it. You can apply without prior research experience. In fact, KURF is supposed to be your introduction to the world of research. We'll discuss it more in detail with our supervisor during the panel in a second, but this is supposed to be your introduction to the world of research as an undergraduate student. You are, of course, welcome to withdraw your application before fellowships start. There are different opportunities in summer, of course, so as long as you let us know as soon as you know that you won't be able to participate in KURF, that's absolutely fine. You can withdraw your application. A lot of students are not in London during summer, and in that case, you still can participate in KURF remotely if your project offers this option. So similarly, like before, please make sure that this option is being offered on your project. Some projects are entirely virtual. So in that case, in the case you're not in London but would still like to be a part of KURF, those projects will be for you. Conversely, some projects are hybrid or some require a full on-site presence. So in that case, please do not apply for those projects. And delivery of each project will also be indicated in the catalog of research projects. So just make sure to have a look. In certain cases, your project supervisor may offer you to continue to work on a research project beyond your allocated 150 hours if they really enjoy working with you, for example. You have the right to, of course, accept this offer, but please remember that in that case, your care experience ends with your 150 allocated hours. And what happens after is not a part of KURF anymore. So in that case, it would be your project supervisor's responsibility to provide you with extra reimbursement for any extra work that you will do on that project. It is also your right to reject that offer in case you think that you won't be able to commit to the project anymore, particularly once the academic year starts. So please remember about that too. And if you have any problems or questions, you are always, of course, welcome to contact the KURF team. On the other hand, what you cannot do is you cannot apply for more than one project. So you can apply within King's Business School, you can apply outside of King's Business School, but make sure to choose this one project that really appeals to you and that you really want to be a part of, because you can apply for only one of them. If you are a previously successful KURF fellow, sadly, you cannot apply for KURF. You can only do KURF once while you are at King's. So previously successful KURF fellows are not eligible. On the other hand, if you previously applied but you were unsuccessful, you are of course more than welcome to apply. KURF projects first are different each year, and second, they are assessed anonymously, so it won't have any impact on your selection. And please do feel free to apply. Final year students, like I've said, are eligible to apply, but if you are a final year student of an integrated master's program, you are not eligible to apply. So those students cannot submit a KURF application. And again, please make sure that if you want to participate in KURF remotely, that your project offers this option, because if it doesn't, you won't be able to participate in KURF in this case. So in order to avoid confusion, please make sure to have a look at the catalog of research projects. And that's everything from me. I hope this was informative. So thank you so much for your attention. And now I would like to welcome our guests on the discussion panel. So thank you so much for joining us today. Once again, I would like to welcome Professor Sally Everett, who is a Vice Dean of Education and Professor of Business Education. Next guest on our discussion panel is Dr. Kantian Dang, a lecturer in economics. We are also joined by Professor Dennis Hawkes, Professor in Economics Education, and Professor Dirk von Lem, Professor of Organization and Practice, as well as Program Director of International Management. And last but not least, we are joined by Ilinka, who's a KURF fellow on a research project, used to be a KURF fellow, successful KURF fellow on a research project, Political Economy of High-Skilled Migration Policy. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning once again. And I have the first question to our supervisors, but I will have a similar question to our fellow as well. But dear supervisors, first and foremost, what do you think makes a strong KURF application within King's Business School? And are there any common mistakes that applicants should avoid? Sally, why don't we start with you first?
Hello, everyone. I'm really pleased that everyone's interested in King's Business School. KURF's the best faculty, of course, so I expect lots of applications. It's funny, I played around with the KURF acronym today, and so I'm going to change the KURF acronym to 4 things that I'm looking for. Knowledge. So what I mean by that is a willingness to learn, but also I'm not going to handhold someone. So actually the ability to actually use databases to understand how to search the library, all the things that you're doing in class anyway, I think will be very, very helpful. Some things I'll be able to support with, but I think that kind of basic knowledge, or at least willingness to learn if you're coming from outside. So I've had 4 KURFs, various different things, and we can talk about those later on. So, you know, some wonderful, wonderful students, but I think that comes through. I think understanding, this is my U, of research, particularly in my field, it's qualitative data. So actually it's been helpful for students to really understand the basics of qualitative data and thematic coding and things like that, what credible sources look like, and just in the application, just show a desire to really grasp with some of the areas that colleagues are presenting. a bit of background research. R, I think, has to be research. So it sticks with research in terms of just some experience, or just reflect on the experience that you have, in terms of not necessarily working at this kind of project, but being able to draw on your own personal experiences and see how they and note that how transferable they are. And I think that's been really helpful when I've seen applications and I've worked with KURF students, that they can show a positive engagement with kind of the principles of research. And my final was I kind of loosely called functional skills, but what I mean by that is ability to organize yourself, be able to visualize data, writing skills, responding to emails, self-management. I know there's a lot there, but having been I'm vice dean, I think it's important for me for students to be able to kind of self-manage their time and respond to the emails. So those kind of functional skills. So I've kind of twisted your KURF acronym a little bit, but hopefully that might provide a model.
I like that. I might steal this one. I was actually very curious, like what F would stand for. I was like looking forward to this one. So thank you.
Fun it could be, but functional skills is probably the
we like fun as well. Thank you so much, Sally. Derek, what do you think about that? What kind of advice you can share with our prospective KURF fellows from King's Business School?
Also, I'm delighted that so many students consider King's Business School as one of the faculties for the participation in a KURF project. I can only add a few things to what Sally has already mentioned. What I'm always looking for is enthusiasm for research. They don't need specific knowledge or expertise then. I'm always trained them up in the skills that were required for the project they were involved in. Reliable, so like Sally says, responding to email, turning up to meetings, and fulfilling the tasks that they agreed to do as part of the project. But yeah, I'm delighted that so many students are interested.
Thank you so much. Before I move on with our other two project supervisors, I have a question to our fellow. Ilinka, could you tell us a little bit more from a student perspective? How did you approach the application process, and what do you think helped you stand out?
Thank you, Magdalena. So for me, it was very important to find a project that on one hand would help me develop my career skills, skills that I would use in my career, particularly research, analysis, report writing skills. But I also was interested in a topic that is related to my master's degree. So I'm still a student at King's Business School. I'm doing a master's in public policy and management. And when the application opened for the KURF project, I already accepted my master's offer, and I wanted to apply for a project that was directly related to what I would study in my master's, so policy analysis. And the project that I chose, the political economy of high skill migration policy, was the closest option. What I think made my application successful is that I believe I met almost every essential and desirable criteria, and I made sure that that happened before choosing the project. And I also answered the application questions in a very structured way. So I wrote down reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. So I made sure I answered the questions as good as I can to convince the supervisor that I'm the right person for this project.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on the master's. Of course, we have a lot of examples of students who did KURF and then decided to pursue academic career further with masters or even PhDs. So thank you for including that as well, and congratulations once again. I have another question to our project supervisors now. I have already said a little bit about that KURF is supposed to be an introduction into the world of research, but students very often worry, can I actually apply without it? And if I apply, what do I actually talk about in my application? So let's hear from our project supervisors. Denise, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so my project's slightly different in the sense that every 2 years, the discipline of economics does a pedagogy review. So we review all of the papers around how we teach economics in the sector. So my project is sort of collaborative in the sense that it works with people at other universities, with Bristol, Warwick, Swansea, a couple of others as well. And that there's sort of like a track record and an approach that's already been taken in sense of what the process looks like. So you're evolving from something that already exists. Magdalena, I've forgotten the question. I had a reason for going on this tangent.
No worries, no worries. The question was, can I apply without prior research experience?
Yes,
How important is it? And what do I talk about if I don't have this experience?
So I did have an answer for that question. That's why I did this conversation. So for us, what's really important is a skill set around team working with others, delivering on a project brief. So we sort of already know in our case where we're going and what we want done. So the sort of thinking in terms of what the research design is, what the structure is, what you need to do, it's very clear for us. We know what you need to do, but we're looking for someone who can manage to work with a team and to deliver on time, and also just to find it interesting to explore. So you don't need to be from economics, but you do need to be interested in the topic that we're doing, because you're going to have to be finding quite a lot of those papers and sort of coding those. You don't have to have studied economics to be interested in how we teach it. But of course, if you have studied economics or have some understanding of that on a module or something, that of course is an obvious thing to highlight. So I guess I'm looking for evidence of the skill sets that will deliver rather than knowledge of the academic knowledge. We already have that. We're looking for someone who can work with us and engage. So I'm looking for evidence of teamwork, evidence, as Sally said, around writing, enthusiasm, as Dirk said. And these things can come from any number of examples. They do not have to be specifically about being a research assistant in a university context.
Thank you so much. I will have a more specific question about the subject that students study and how much of an impact it has on your decision. But before I ask this one, I would like to ask Akan as well. What do you think about this? Students' fear and worry. Should I apply without prior research experience? What do I talk about then? And is it for me, basically?
Yeah. So I think this is my third year of doing this, and the same answer to every year is I believe that at King's students, because we are research-led institute, so it means when we teach students, we actually do a lot of research and then try to get students exposed to research in there as well. So I do believe students can use that in their applications as well. So for myself, I had, I think, 4 or 5 projects already with KURF. Most of them involve collecting data, managing data, and did a bit of analysis, which of course formal research experience would very much be helpful. But students at KBS are very well prepared for that, right? So in many of the courses at KBS, they are using data sets to analyze research questions, analyze economic or business questions. So students can actually use those courses, projects, courseworks that they have done in their study to talk about their skills. So yes, obviously, ideally they would have some excellent former research experience. But if they don't, please don't worry about that. They can always use their learning from the courses, the academic courses that they took at King's, and talk about those as well. So for me, I think the most important one is for them to show me their enthusiasms, how much they love to continue with this research journey. So I had one excellent KURF fellow who I'm supporting her PhD at Cambridge. So she's now moving to Cambridge to do a PhD in AI. So I'm very, very happy with that. So before that, she didn't have much research experience. But she showed me that she was very keen with learning about research, learning about the steps of research. So that is what I really wanted to see in an application.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Very inspirational story. Thanks for sharing, and congratulations to yourself and your fellow. Before we move on with this question about the studied subject, actually, the question from the other end of the spectrum to Ilinka. What do you think? How much of a research experience did you have before you applied for KURF, and what did you include in your application?
Yeah, so I've had, I would say, a bit of research experience in internships that I did in the summer before the summer I did KURF. I also did my dissertation project in King's Business School. It was optional for my program, but I was really interested in doing a dissertation project, and I gained a significant amount of research skills, and I think that was very helpful for my application because I already knew how a piece of research project look like, a piece that you would complete over a longer period of time look like. So that I think was very helpful for my application. At the same time, I think the research that I did for the KURF project was a bit different from the research that I did for my dissertation. And it was very interesting to see how the two projects have differed.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you so much. Yeah, I can only echo that and just encourage students to really work with the experience that they already have. You might think you don't have this experience, but you actually might, as Kan has said, or Ilinka has demonstrated as well. So thank you so much for sharing. And now I would really like to ask you realistically, and this may differ between different project supervisors and different projects, but for students who are interested in pursuing a project within King's Business School, whether they are from the faculty or not, how much does a student's degree subject influence your selection process? I know it doesn't that much for Denise, for example. What about you, Derek? What do you think?
For me, it didn't matter either. So I was really more interested in students' interest in the topic, how they tailored and aligned their application to the project that was advertised, so that they would express why they're interested in pursuing this particular project, because that would indicate to me that they are enthusiastic about the topic and would be devoted and to spend time on it. Then it doesn't really matter what backgrounds they have. It's maybe different from what Khan was saying, or not. The methods I'm using are more in line with what Sally is doing, so qualitative research method. So last year I had a project on independent bookshops, and I asked the students to go to shops and observe what's happening there and talk to traders and so on. And so I needed a student who would be open to this kind of research rather than going through databases, for example. Yeah, so it needed someone who is communicative, social in approach, not too shy, open to go to strange people and interview them effectively. And they had to bring that out in their application, and the student who I then selected did that and was fantastic.
Thank you so much. Very interesting. I remember this project actually. Sally, I know you have accepted, if I'm not mistaken, in the past, students from outside of the faculty to your fellowships. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. For all the reasons that Dirk has outlined, to be honest. So I think I had a student from IOPPN, I've had a student from, I think, SSPP, and it didn't make a difference. So just to reassure students on the call, I'll give you a kind of sense, that particular project was interviewing ventures in our entrepreneurship institute. So exactly what Dirk was saying, I just needed someone that was confident to talk to people. And to develop a kind of case from their interview process, which is very interesting. Another one was inclusive education. If you care about inclusive education, you don't need business background. Actually, it's beyond that. And another one was really helping with our kind of research to set up a centre, and that centre is now in existence, which is iLead, which is our Centre for Innovation. So, it doesn't have to necessarily lead to another research project or PhD. Actually, it can lead to the creation of centres and projects and initiatives. But in all of those cases, at no point did I need someone that had in-depth business knowledge and understanding. And I think it goes back to what colleagues were saying. It's just that enthusiasm and that willingness to learn, and that ability to just get involved. And so that's. I to be honest, when I've read through applications, when I had the kind of spreadsheet and things like that, I could see the different, and actually I couldn't often tell what faculty they were coming from. It was about the quality of the application. It wasn't necessarily. Sometimes we might mention, I've done very large scale surveys in IOPPN, or I've done long research reviews. So draw on the expertise and the transferable skills that come from your discipline and your faculty areas, and that's what helps.
Thank you so much. Very encouraging as well. Students often wonder before they start KURF, like, what is KURF actually like? What kind of support do you provide during their research experience? And in other words, what is a day in life of a KURF fellow like? Could you tell us a little bit more about your projects and what does it look like in practice?
Right. I think was quite an intense period of co-working, I would say. That is why I think this year I put in my proposal that I would like someone who wouldn't have much other commitments going on over the summer, because I understand from previous years I had a few fellows who actually had an internship going on together with my fellowship, so they were trying to work during the weekend, which I highly appreciate that commitment, but I would think one, they can allow others to have the opportunity as well, and it could be a much better experience for them. So the reason is because I really want to structure the fellowship in a very much similar way as I do research. So we're trying to contain the research experience over the working hours. We don't want to drag it on over the weekend. Of course, we academics, we do work over the weekends, but we don't want to scare the students away from that too early on. So for me, I usually have a very first meeting with my fellows at the very early on, and then in the first few weeks, we have every 2-3 we have meetings every 2-3 days, so that we can catch on how the fellows are working, because initially they may have some difficulties in obtaining the data or working around the data, but towards the end of the fellowship they become much more independent, they become much more confident, so we have less frequent meetings as well. And I'm always open and reachable via emails or Teams, so they can always send me an emails or send me a message on Teams if they have any questions, and I'm always available to talk to them face to face, or on Teams if they want to. So that is sort of, I view them as my co-author, my co-worker. So if they have any questions, if they want me to give them any advice, feedback, I'm very much open about it. So this is different from the a dissertation and student relationship. It's more about we're working together towards this project. So that is the way that I structure my fellowship.
Yeah, thank you so much. And this is actually often one of the benefits that students very often list after their KURF experience, that they have this opportunity to develop this different sort of almost like a colleague relationship with a project supervisor. So that's another benefit, definitely. And yeah, I can only echo what Kan has said. And this is what we usually say at the start of KURF as well. The clear communication and responsiveness is the key to success in your KURF experience. So as long as you have that, you are basically just destined for success with KURF. I would like to ask Denise as well, what kind of support do you provide during your KURF project, and what is the day in life? What does it look like?
I haven't done one at King's before because I've been here since September, but I have had students in the previous institutions work with me on research projects, similar structure to KURF. A little bit like Can, really. I'm quite keen that it is the day job and not an evening. And the reason for that is it's a collaborative process. It's not just, as Sally said, you do need to do quite a lot of working in your own time, independence, but you also need to be collaborative. And if you're trying to schedule that around other times, that puts pressure on the wider team. In terms of how our project works, because we've run this one now twice before with the team that are doing the project, essentially there is a wider team that would want a project meeting every couple of weeks to see how you're doing and just to touch base and to help feed into the process. Because although I made that bold statement, well, we know what we're doing, of course things evolved in the 2 years since we did the last review. So there would be a fortnightly touch point with the project team to talk about what you're finding, if you're struggling. Obviously day-to-day contact is with myself as the project lead for King's, but the wider project team would meet twice, once a fortnight. I think also quite a lot of time is going to be spent on databases and searching databases and going back and searching them again and going back and searching them again. So you do need quite a high tolerance for understanding that you're not going to get this right the first time. And you have to manage that frustration a little bit. It can be frustrating for all of us when research goes up an angle that we don't expect. So one of the reasons for the regular touch points with the wider team and with myself would be making sure that we have ability to evolve as we go through. Yeah, but so a lot of time on your own, but with some structure supporting you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And same question, but this time from a different perspective to Ilinka. Could you tell us a little bit more? What was your day of a KURF fellow like? What kind of things did you do? And also students often wonder, how did you manage the workload and commitment? So could you share some tips with us there as well?
Of course. So, as part of my project on a day-to-day basis, I've had to look at an immigration forum where people from all over the world would post questions about the Tier 2, previously or currently the skilled worker visa in the UK. And I had to look at immigration questions from May 2012 until whenever I could. And I had to put this data into Excel and categorize all the queries according to the type of question they would ask, where this person was coming from, did they resolve the issue in the end or not. And this is what I had to do on a day-to-day basis. What was not part of my project, but what I was really interested in doing at the end of the fellowship is to try to explain if any patterns in the data that I was identifying. Why were people were asking consistently a particular type of question? Why was this type of question constantly popping up? Is this an issue related to the way the legislation is formulated and people don't understand? And I think that was the most interesting part of my project. What I would say I would find difficult is that every week I worked part-time over the entire summer, and every week I would set myself a certain target to reach, a certain number of queries to go through. But I realized at the beginning I was setting myself unrealistic targets. Because even though it might seem simple when I'm talking about this, it would take even up to 10 minutes per query to go through it and try to categorize it, especially since some queries were in broken English and I was taking a lot of time to understand what that person was trying to say. And so I think the skill that I most developed during my time as a KURF fellow were first time management skills as well as setting realistic targets.
Thank you so much. That's a great practical advice that I'm sure all of our prospective fellows will appreciate. We are slowly coming to an end of our session. We will have a time for a dedicated Q&A, like I've said. So in the meantime, once I will be asking one final question to all of our panelists today, I would like to encourage all of our students to think of the questions that they might want to ask, particularly to our supervisors and our fellows, since you have their time and attention now. You're of course welcome to ask our team some questions as well, but for that I would encourage you to contact us via email as well. So in the meantime, while you're thinking of your questions, you are welcome to use the chat. You can also use the raise hand function if you'd prefer that. I would like to ask everyone one final question. Why would you recommend KURF, and why do you think KURF could be beneficial, particularly for students from King's Business School or students who want to complete a project within King's Business School, other than just being the best faculty, as Sally has said, other than this one? So can we start with Dirk?
KURF is a unique opportunity for you to be engaged in an actual research project. So you will learn about the research process, which is an important skill that you will need when you leave university, wherever you go. You might not think of yourself as a researcher in the future, but once you enter the workplace, you will see there's a lot of research going on outside universities. You learn skills that are adaptable to wherever you will work. So being systematic, attention to detail, summarizing complex documents and manuscripts in a concise manner. And on top of that, you learn what it is like to work in a team, what it involves, why it is important to be on time and deliver items that you've asked to deliver at a certain moment in time. So you learn practical skills as well as research skills, and you get an insight into what it is like to do research in academia. Depending on which department or which researcher or which project you join, you will learn different kinds of skills. So the skills you learn with Khan or Denise will be different than the skills you learn with Sally or someone like me. But in what brings us all together is a systematic approach to deal with data, and you learn that and learn what you can do with data and what you can find out.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Khan, what do you think is a benefit of completing KURF for a student from King's Business School or within King's Business School? You're on mute, Khan, sorry.
Sorry about that. So I think so. My view, it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed since since the first time I participated in this. There are only a very few opportunities for students to get to work as closely with your lecturer or your professor as a KURF fellowship, as a participant. You would be paid actually to do some exciting work with your lecturers or your professors. You would have a chance to actually produce something that can be published with your supervisors, with your professors. You would have an opportunity, a paid opportunity to see whether you would like to do a research or not in the future in a leading research university. I think this is an opportunity that you should not pass. I didn't have this during my undergraduate, and you can curate a working relationship with your lecturer or your professors, and you can get some favors from them as well, not just the working relationship. For example, I have provided a lot of references to my KURF fellows before. Many of them went on to do MSc master's degrees in the top universities, and two of them are now working are now going to work as a PhD at Cambridge, and another one is applying for other PhD positions. So this is an excellent opportunity.
This is really amazing, and we're very happy to hear that. Thank you so much. Ilinka, from a student perspective, why would you recommend KURF?
I think I would recommend it, first of all, because for many students, this will be the first substantial piece of research that you will work on. And you have the opportunity to work on this in an environment that you're quite familiar with. You will also learn lots of transferable skills that can be used later in your academic life or in your career. And I think the most important part is that you will work on something that you enjoy, and that is my biggest piece of advice that I have. Choose a project that you generally find interesting, because you will enjoy your time on this project.
Thank you so much. Denise, why would you say KURF could be beneficial for students from King's Business School?
I think it's a great opportunity to explore. So, just to add to colleagues, I agree with everything so far. But for me, it's a real opportunity to explore, to see whether this is something that's interesting to you. Most of us don't actually, I didn't personally make a decision to be an academic. It just sort of happens as you go along. and as you explore. So, it's an opportunity to see, does this work? What is it? What's it about? And just to be paid to be curious, which I think is an amazing thing.
Thank you so much. That's really well said. And last but not least, Sally, any recommendation?
Yeah, I'm always surprised that more colleagues don't go for KURFs, because essentially these are colleagues that are paid to support your research. It's partly why KBS is funding more, I think up to 10. So we want to because we see the value in these. And I'd just say it's about leaving a positive legacy on society. That's ultimately why we do our research. And for you to have that kind of impact on on knowledge and society going forward and make that difference, I think is incredibly meaningful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's very encouraging as well. And thanks so much to Business School, of course, for additional funding for some additional fellows. This is really great. I have seen a question whether early applications are an advantage or not. And I would like to let all of the students know that the applications are not assessed on a first come, first serve. All applications are sent to project supervisors once the application cycle ends. So you can take as much time as you want with submitting your application as long as you meet the deadline, and it won't have an impact on the outcome of your application. So I've also seen a question from Jay that often pops from students. What are the outputs following the KURF project? For example, published papers or presentations. I can see that Sally has included some examples from her previous fellowships. What about other supervisors? Can anyone else maybe share some of the previous outputs? Pan?
I'm typing, but I think I'm just, so for this year, so for last year, we are preparing to submit a paper written with a KURF fellow to a journal. It has been presented in a few very top conferences already, so it's a very good outcome. From 2 years ago, so I worked with 2 other KURF fellows to redesign our econometrics teaching. So econometrics is like statistics in economics, sort of, and trying to translate coding from one type of software to another types of software. So I'm using them in my teaching currently, and accredited to the KURF fellows as well. So their works are being used in my teaching, and also we are jointly develop papers to submit to academic journals, similar to what Sally is writing down there.
Thanks so much. And we also have some examples from Denise, I can see.
Yeah, so I do think it's also an opportunity to influence the direction of that paper. So the output is the paper, but the 2 previous reviews that we've done with the team, the student voice has been so important in making sure that we're not just being our usual academic self and knowing the answer. It might be an economist thing, but the student voice has been really important there to say, had you thought of these papers or this direction or this particular thing? And I think that is important. So the opportunity, one of the outputs is not just that you have a paper, but you have a paper where some of your thoughts are contributing to. And that's been really, really important. And I think the same is true for presentations. So it is a co-created example in our case. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I can see we have a question in the chat about interviews, whether they are in person or online to be selected, or just be assessed based on the answers to the questions. And if we do, how many rounds? Like I've said at the beginning, the interviews may be optionally arranged, and this is a decision of a project supervisor. Some project supervisors decide to pursue this option. Some project supervisor just select the students based on the application form. It really varies. It really depends on the project. And then interviews, again, can be in person. They are most of the time organized online. Very rarely they happen in person, but sometimes they do. In this case, of course, the student is informed, and there's usually one round of an interview if project supervisors decide to organize it. So thank you for this question. Do we have any other questions from the students to our supervisors, to our fellow, or to our staff? In case there are, you're welcome to use the chat or use the raise hand function on Teams if that's easier for you. But in case we don't have any other questions, it means the session was informative. So I'm very, very happy. Once again, I would like to thank first and foremost our brilliant panelists, all of our project supervisors, as well as our fellow. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us today. And I would like to also thank everyone who joined the session this morning. We are recording the session. The recording will be available later on our Kids page, probably at some point next week. Please bear with us because the recording is quite a big file, so it takes a while to upload, but it will be available shortly. I would like to wish the best of luck to all of our prospective KURF applicants and hopefully see you at the KURF induction session in summer. And in the meantime, I would like to wish you a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Magdalena.
Thank you. Bye.